Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunshine Soap and Candle Company. I am making the third soap for my June release today, and it is going to be made using bee pollen powder. So bee pollen powder is known to be great for cosmetics. It's very good for the skin. It has a load of antioxidants in it. It's rejuvenating, it's hydrating, it's got vitamins in it, and it's supposed to be great for anti-aging. So I thought, why not? Let's go ahead and use it in the soap. And it also will add a natural color to the soap. Along with that, we're using a honeysuckle essential oil blend that smells very beautiful. It's got beautiful honeysuckle floral notes, but also it smells very airy and beachy. So it kind of smells like a mix of like a beach and floral. It's really very beautiful. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and prep the bee pollen powder. So we wanna go ahead and disperse the bee pollen in a light carrier oil. The bee pollen is very, it's powdery, but it's got these kind of chunks that need to be broken up. So we're gonna be using, I think I'm gonna use 2 full tablespoons of bee pollen powder. And then what I'm gonna do is pour some apricot kernel oil. Now this is a light carrier oil. I'm gonna pour some light apricot kernel oil right over the top of it. This is 2 tablespoons. I'm gonna actually use 3. So I've got this pretty neat little attachment. This goes right onto the end of my stick blender. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the blade and then add on the frother. And then I'm just gonna go in here on low and blend up that powder. All right, so there are still some chunks in here, but it's fairly mixed. And I think that with the bee pollen powder, it doesn't get completely smooth, at least with my experience. So we just try to get it as smooth as possible. And it's okay, it gives the soap a little bit of a rustic look to it if they don't get all blended up. And that's what it looks like. I'm not sure I'm gonna be using all of this in the soap, but I wanted plenty so I didn't have to prep some more in case I didn't have enough. So that's the bee pollen powder. And then the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and prep the soap. We're gonna get the soap's already prepped. We're gonna go ahead and make the soap. So I'm putting on my goggles. And this soap is gonna be very moisturizing. I'll be sharing the complete recipe on my Patreon campaign, but it's got mango butter, canola oil, olive oil, castor oil, palm oil, and coconut oil. So here are my lye and water solution and oils and butters. So we're just gonna go ahead and switch that back on. And then we're gonna go ahead and mix up the soap on low speed. Okay, and we're gonna be splitting this off. So I just want to go ahead and be at a very thin trace. A lot of the times florals will accelerate trace in your soap. This particular blend got very good reviews, and so I'm hoping we don't have that problem, but I am expecting it. So I'm going to go ahead and pour half of my soap into here. Okay. And we're going to move this, we're going to save this one for the top, and this is going to be the base of the soap. So the base of the soap, I'm going to go ahead and hand mix in at first. This is very full. You know what? I think I'm going to put this in a bigger container. Okay, so I'm going to start by just pouring in my bee pollen powder. Just giving it a little mix before I do that. And I'm going to stir it by hand until I decide how much I want in there. Okay. So I actually think we're probably just going to go ahead and use the whole thing. Go. It adds a nice kind of yellowish color to the soap. And you do see those little bits of bee pollen. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and add in half of my fragrance oil. This is not a typical honeysuckle smell. It definitely has those beech notes to it. So it's not as sweet of a fragrance, but it's got those real pretty top notes of honeysuckle. It is a very nice fragrance. All right. That's all I'm going to do. I'm sitting at about a thin to medium trace because we're going to be making this a layered soap. So I want to make sure that it's definitely pourable, but also not so super thin that it's going to take forever to set up. So I'm just tilting my mold using the bottom of another mold. I'm tilting it on a diagonal, and this is going to be the bottom half of my soap. So far, it is performing beautifully. I'm not having any acceleration issues whatsoever. So we're going to give that soap a few minutes to set up, and then I'm going to come back to do the top. All right, we're back to go ahead and create the second layer on that soap, and we're just going to add some titanium dioxide dispersed in water. The top half of this soap is just going to be white. And then I'm going to be adding in the rest of the fragrance oil. And then we're going to go ahead and blend it up. That's fantastic. So then all I'm going to do is go ahead and get my mold back over here, and I'm going to slowly start pouring the white soap over the layer of bee pollen soap. There we go. It's still on the tilt. I'm going to keep it on the tilt until the last minute, just so that my soap stays at an angle. I'm going to test the top real fast. I'm just going to take a little bit and just ladle it on. Okay, at this point I'm going to go ahead and remove the tilt. And I'm not going to whack this soap down. I'm just going to shimmy it and make sure it's even. Okay. And then I'm going to just take a chopstick and swirl the top a little bit into a figure 8 design. And then while the soap is still pretty wet, I'm going to go ahead and add on some flower petals. I'm going to be adding on some calendula flower petals and also some chamomile. So we're going to start with the chamomile. So these have some nice little yellow flower buds in the mix, and that'll accentuate the yellow that's already in here and kind of complement the yellow and the white combination I have going. And then I'm just going to add a few calendula petals to go along with that. And of course the calendula is a nice yellowy orange color. I'm just going to drop some of that on there. I don't want to cover the top completely, but I do want to give it that nice, just kind of botanical, natural look. Now some of these will fall off. Some of these little flower petals will fall off in the cutting. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more here and there. And then you can kind of push them down a little bit if you see a few that are sticking out or look like they might fall. They're not embedded all the way. Push the little chamomile stems down. And then I'm going to take my 91% rubbing alcohol and I'm going to spray the top and just kind of seal everything in. Okay, everybody, that's the making of my bee pollen soap that does not have a name yet. Stay tuned for the cutting.